I again want to thank you for being here. What a gorgeous day, September. Our speaker today is awesome. We've been fortunate to have Rob Grede as our speaker 5 times, I believe now, 5 or 6 in the last 10 or 11, 12 years. And Rob is awesome. He's arguably our favorite speaker of all time. And that sucks because I've spoken 5 or 6 times in 12 years. Rob is a former professor at Marquette. He was an executive at a big agency in Chicago that handled some little companies that some of you might have heard of, people like McDonald's. He has written something like 5 books, a novel, and several business books. And they're good. They're really good. One of them is still a perennial bestseller in India. And that's Naked Marketing, I believe. His 5 Kick-Ass Strategies book is also likely. Do you have some books available here? Great, great. And he'll sign them for you. I have a complete set. Although my wife won't give me back one of them. Rob's a walking encyclopedia on all things marketing, and I hope you'll join me in welcoming our speaker, Rob Grede.
Thanks, Roddy. Appreciate it. Am I wired? Can everybody hear me? We don't want to hear you. Thank you, Keith. I am convinced that Keith Klein was a cheerleader in high school. He did such a great job. So, I'm here to talk about building you as a brand. If you look around, you're going to see that we have put up a couple of logos. What's doing it? Here we go. A bunch of different logos. I'm sure that I put my drink right in the middle there. How about that? How dumb was that? I'm sure you recognize all of these logos. Does everybody know what this one is up at the corner? Starbucks? No. I heard it over here. Yeah, it is Procter & Gamble. Why don't you recognize that logo? It's one of the biggest companies. It's a Fortune 50 company. They are not branding themselves. They brand their products. My wife is a corporate brand person. She would know that better than anybody. That this is not a corporate branding company. They are a product branding company. You'll know Crest. You'll know Tide. You would know all of their logos for all their smaller companies. I mean, their brands, rather, where you may not know the corporate brand. To Keith's point, I worked at a company called Leo Burnett in Chicago, a big ad agency there. At the time, I think they were number 2 or 3 in the world. I worked on McDonald's, as he said. I also worked on Procter and Union Carbide and United Airlines. Those are the 4 big accounts I worked on while I was there. What I do now is translate that into small businesses. I serve as an outsourced marketing department for small businesses. You need a marketing plan or a market strategy. I'll develop the strategy and then either help you implement or you'll retain me to do that. So that's my elevator speech. We'll get to that, what that is, in just a moment. So we're going to talk about branding you today. You are all brands. Whether you like it or not, we all get an impression of you within that first 10 seconds, usually by visual aids, but it may also be by oral aids or whatnot. We can have an impression about who you are. How many of you are in service businesses? And I want to see every hand go up. You guys are all service businesses. In a service business, we are all individual brands because we are all unique. I don't care if you're selling a hard, hold in your hand kind of product, you are still selling it, and your sales techniques and your capabilities are customized to the person you're selling them to and to you yourself. We are all unique. So we all have to brand ourselves uniquely and differentiate ourselves from everybody else. I don't want a little exercise here. I want you to all look at the person on your right. Okay? Is that person a smart, creative, hardworking person? All right, now look to your left. Is that person smart, creative, and hardworking? Pretty darn right. How are you going to differentiate yourself from all those other smart, creative, hardworking people that are even in this room, let alone in this state, in this country, in this world? Okay? And with the internet, we are competing with the world. So we're going to talk today. I did that again. Okay, we're going to talk today not only about the need to differentiate yourself, how to do it, and then selling you to your peers, your industry, and your customers. Okay? And then finally, I'll give you a couple of, talk about the branding process itself, and I'm going to give you 4 little things to walk away with that you can do immediately to help brand yourself and to create more awareness, visibility in the marketplace. All right, first of all, what makes you different? What makes you unique? What makes you different from all the other smart, creative, industrious people walking around your office, walking around this room, wherever it is that you're networking, wherever it is that you're selling your products and services? Okay? You have benefits. You have attributes that are of benefit to your peers, your network, and your customers. What are those attributes? When we think about marketing products, I don't care if it's dishwashing liquid or individual people, we think about our attributes. Those are our features. Okay? I'm selling this widget over here and it has bells on it and whistles on it. But you don't care about those bells and whistles. You care what those bells and whistles do for you. So your attributes are your features, your skills, your experience, your capabilities, the things in which you have expertise. But they are absolutely useless unless you translate those into benefits. How do those solve problems? How do those save money? How do those increase productivity? How do those enhance your customers' abilities? Okay? Unless you can translate those into ways in which you're going to benefit your customers, attributes have no function whatsoever. You don't sell, it's all, you've probably heard the saying a long time ago, don't sell the steak, sell the sizzle. Okay? You're not selling your features, you're selling the benefits that those features bring. All right? Got it. All right. So, those brand vehicles that you have, those attributes, your physical attributes, could be your clothes, your hair, could be affectations, we call them, you know, glasses and accessories, things that you do to make yourself memorable or unique physically. If you don't happen to be born 6'7", you may have to acquire some physical attributes that make you unique or different. You have your elevator speech, again, benefits, not features. It's reflected in your LinkedIn profile, which may include both your features and benefits. Features meaning your work history, things like that. Here's my favorite question. How many of you have a website with your name? Yourname.com. Wow, we got half of the people in here. That's awesome. Okay, okay, that's all right. You've at least reserved it. We're talking like $1 a month, folks. Oh, close enough. Close enough. I will tell you that on his 30th birthday gift, I gave NateGrede.com to my son. It costs $13 a year, right? Okay, a little more than $1 a month. And this was a unique 30th birthday present, right? I populated with all the pictures. I had one page that was his baby years, 1 year's school years, and 1 year's post-school years, and things like that. And then I had his engagement, and his wedding, and all those kinds of things, and all different pages. And I sent it out over Facebook to all his friends and whatnot. They thought it was great. If you're looking for a unique gift for one of your kids, there you go. Okay? His name or her name.com. If you don't, even if you don't have anything to populate it with, reserve it now. Okay? We're not making more websites. You might as well get your name up there now. So, email is another way to brand yourself. What makes you open someone's email before someone else's? Sometimes it's who it's from, though, isn't it? Oh, hey, I know there's going to be something good in there because I know that person and he always gives me or she always gives me good content. Or it's something I absolutely need to know. Yeah, it's somebody, a customer I've been working with. I better open my customers first. Customers come first, okay? You read those even before your kids or your spouse or whatnot. So it's a promise of that value that you are going to receive. So email is very important. I always like to say that, you know, the 80s, the 70s, that was the era of the glib talker, okay? That was the year, those are the years of the telephone. If you got on the phone and you had a good pitch, good line, you were a good talker, you'd probably be very successful. Those people who are good verbalizers and good on a telephone. What happens when you try and make a call nowadays? Either you know what it is, you get a voicemail, or you get, God, I hate those things, those trees where you get press 1 for this, press 2 for that, or say the number this, or say what your problem is, and then please repeat that. Do I have that right? You're lost in Chicago right now? No, I said my pants are on fire. No, you said you're... What is it that, you get frustrated with those darn things? So all of those things, talking is not what it used to be. The ability to write, either through Twitter, or your LinkedIn profiles, or LinkedIn, even Facebook, and what you put in your email makes a lot of difference. So learn how to write. And I'm not talking TXT and that's kind of LOL and OMG and all that kind of stuff. I'm talking about the ability to be able to put words together succinctly and say what you mean very quickly. And I'll teach you how to do that in just a minute. So, what is your brand image? I'm going to take a look at a couple brands, okay? I have to look at Russell Brand just because his name is Brand. But we all know these people because they have affectations or unique attributes. Before you start laughing, I did a little Photoshop on Conan's hair just to kind of emphasize. It's not as goofy as now. Somebody said, I looked at that the other night, who's in the far right corner? Who's that? Okay, somebody said, oh, that's Madonna. And I said, no, it's Madonna revisited 20 years later. Yeah, basically Lady Gaga is Madonna resurrected. Even Steve Jobs had a uniform. It saved a lot of shopping and it saved a lot of decisions. He once said, I don't like making decisions in the morning. So he'd get up, he'd say, well, I need a black t-shirt. He'd look in his drawer and he'd have 50 of them, so he'd just pick one. Oh, I need some blue jeans. Well, he had 50 of those. And I need some Nike shoes, so he'd pick up a pair of shoes. It was his uniform. So we all know what you didn't even have to see his face, you didn't know who that was. His uniform. We all know Larry King, and I always tell the story of a friend of mine who was just a brand new lawyer at Foley and Lardner here in town, and he wanted to differentiate himself because he was a very average-looking guy, average height. Ron Warzen, my wife knows him. So he started wearing a bow tie. Everybody remembered him because he wore a bow tie. He rose to be managing director of Foley and Lardner before he left. Pharrell Williams, we all recognize him. Would you know him without that hat? Would you have known him? You might have looked at it and said, well, that's Bruno Mars or whoever that is, but no, we know him because he wears a goofy hat. All right, here, let me give you an example. Who is that guy? Don't tell him and don't say it out loud, but if you recognize him, don't say it out loud. But a lot of people wouldn't necessarily know who that was until you see him without his hair. When he shaved his head, does anybody know the first movie he appeared in with a shaved head? No, it's actually Saving Private Ryan. But at any rate, he became famous as a bald guy. And if you look at his hair, he has a full hairline. It's not like he shaved it because he was going bald or anything. He shaved it to be able to. Yeah, sorry. Sorry. Wouldn't you know? The one guy in the audience. But this guy right here, we wouldn't, he's a good-looking guy. He looks like a tough guy. He might make it in the movies. He might not. This guy is a superstar. He's one of the highest. He's in the top 10 in paid, what do you call it, actors' pay in Hollywood. All right, so physical attributes can make you unique, your presentation physically. But promoting you, whenever we talk about promotion and advertising, there are 3 steps. You have to create awareness first. That comes before anything else. If you are not aware of a product or service, you are not going to be within the universe of choices when it comes time to make a purchase. Awareness is everything. That starts the process. Once you've got awareness, you then begin building credibility. Once I've heard about you, then I have to know and trust you. And because we all sell services, credibility is extremely important. Because what is a service more than a paper and a promise? Any service you're buying is basically little more than a piece of paper and a promise. When you contract your services to develop this for somebody, or advertising or consulting processes or business coaching or whatnot, you are making a promise to them that I can fulfill that. But before they can trust you for that, you have to have credibility. You have to have established credibility in advance so that we know that when we put our dollars down, whether it's a down payment or whatever, we know that you can fulfill upon that promise. All right? The last thing is what we call maintaining your brand, or some people call it reminder advertising. Let me give you an example. If You see Coca-Cola doing advertising. Do you think you need awareness? Do they need awareness? Coca-Cola. Have we all heard of Coca-Cola? We know what Coca-Cola is. All right. We've all heard of them. They are among our universe of choices when it comes time to ordering a soft drink. It's the #1 brand in the world, so I'm assuming everybody knows that. It's a #1 established brand. Do they have credibility? Have we all tasted Coca-Cola? We know what Coke tastes like, even Diet Coke. We know that what it tastes like. So they have the credibility of being able to satisfy your thirst. Why do you think Coca-Cola ever does advertising? They've got all the awareness in the world and they've got all the credibility. They want to remind you how delicious they are and how refreshing they are. And usually they do it. If you ever notice Coke commercials, they almost always include the popping of the can and the psss, that effervescence, those bubbles that come out, because that's what we call in the advertising world a mnemonic device. A mnemonic device is any kind of a device that reminds you of a product or service and reminds you of the product benefits. They do that sound and it immediately makes us thirsty, and we immediately run to the refrigerator to pick up a can of pop and open it. It may not even be a Coke, but at least it's among my universe of choices, right? So this is this 3-step process in building awareness, credibility, and then constantly reminding you, keeping our names in front of our customers and prospects. So how do we create? Let's start with the first two, awareness and credibility. Basically, they fall into about 3 categories: speaking or presenting in some fashion, and then writing. Okay? When we speak, we teach a class, sort of like what I'm doing now. We write articles or a blog. One of my favorite things to do, and one that's going to get you lots of visibility, is the opinion piece. Responding to an article in a trade magazine, or responding to some news story. You write a letter to the editor of the Journal Sentinel or any other newspaper or trade magazine in your industry. It's a great way to get visibility. And I'll talk about what you do with it once you've gotten it published. And then the last part is building testimonials, and we'll talk about that in a minute too. So these are the kinds of things that we're going to discuss today in terms of creating awareness and credibility, and then that reminder advertising later. So, speaking. What do I know better than anybody else? People get all excited about, there's an old saying that says, hey, everybody's frightened about public speaking. When Americans were polled recently, the #1 fear is public speaking. #2 is flying and heights. And I think #4 was fear of death, which I always find kind of ludicrous. But you go to a funeral, more people would rather be the corpse than deliver the eulogy. I mean, there's something wrong with that concept. I don't know what it is, but there's really no reason to fear public speaking as long as you know your subject. What's really troublesome is when you get up in front of a group and you start talking. I'll give you an example of this because it happened to me. And you start talking to a group where you realize know more than you do. I got up to speak to a group and I was talking about media in advertising one time. And I noticed that the people were kind of bored and looking around like this. So I asked a couple of people in the audience, well, now what do you do for a living? I'm a media buyer for Procter & Gamble. Well, what do you do? I sell media for NBC or a major TV station. And oh, okay. So I said, well, I'm not going to talk about flighting and front loading since you all know about that already. So what I'm going to talk about is the process that we as account service people go through in order to create a media plan for you. The media objectives. And I kind of switched, I threw away my PowerPoint and started working right off the cuff from there because, and I was fortunate I had an easel. So I did drawings and things like that and talk about how to put together a media strategy. And now they were starting to pay attention because I knew something more than they did. Okay? As long as you know your topic, I'm not saying, by the way, that I know more about branding than you guys, but I'm saying that I know enough about it that I can at least speak intelligently, reasonably intelligently. Yeah. I'll let you decide. But reasonably intelligently, so I feel like I am, in order to create interest in what I'm talking about. How do I create interest in my delivery? Okay, I read a couple of articles before I came over here today. I threw this together in the last 25 minutes, and bingo, here we are. Okay? As Keith knows, I've been a little bit more involved than that. I've written some books on this, but nevertheless, it may seem like it's just kind of slapped together. Yes, I did do an awful lot of research, and I have been giving this speech for some time. As a matter of fact, I was reminded, I actually gave this talk about 3 or 4 years ago to this group. A little bit different content, but not appreciably. Now, the other thing I want to talk about is following prep. What is prep? Well, before we do that, let's talk about the telling everybody. Once you have an opportunity to speak, tell everybody. I'm fortunate in that I had my public relations guy over here, Keith, distributing everything to all the world on Facebook and a whole lot of other social media sites that I don't even know anything about. And Maggie, by the way, there she is. She was also reviewing my books I just learned about today and doing things on her blog that I didn't even know about. So I'm grateful for the crowd we have here today. I'm sure it has nothing to do with me, but everything to do with these guys. It's wonderful when you have people like that to be able to do that for you. But if you don't, do it yourself. Make sure everybody knows when and where you're going to be teaching your class or speaking or whatnot. Now, following prep. Point, reason, example, point. Okay? When you think about speaking, you make your point, you give your reasons, you follow with an example or two or three, and then you finally summarize and recap and issue your point once more. Interestingly, I was a music major in college, and I studied music composition. What the heck are you going to do with a music composition major, Rob? Said my parents. I said, I don't know. But I ended up going to the advertising business, which makes no sense at all, except for the fact that sonata allegro form follows point, reason, example, point. If you were to design even a 3-act play, you do the setup, you do the development, the conclusion, and denouement, they call it. The example and the point, the denouement is usually a tying together of everything and a reissuing of the main theme of your book. So the structure of a novel is built the same way. If you're a copywriter, you will learn very quickly writing an advertisement. Your point is in your headline, your primary benefit, your reasons for buying. Examples of that usually follow. Examples may be testimonials. We'll come to that in a moment. And then you reissue your point at the end and your call to action. So an awful lot of composition, whether it's music or written composition or speeches, follow this same format. Point, reason, example. By the way, if anybody has any questions along the way, please jump in. We're fine. So point, reason, example, point works for speaking. It works for writing. Very well for each. So I want to just kind of digress for a moment. All right, back to awareness and credibility. Teaching a class, how can I share whatever expertise I have? Okay. About 4 years ago, I think now, I spoke on a book that I'd written about the Civil War. I will almost guarantee that nobody in this room at that time knew I knew anything about the Civil War. And the fact of the matter is I don't pretend to be an expert by any means. But I did a lot of research for this book I wrote about an ancestor of mine. And suddenly I come into this room and Keith says, well, what are you going to talk about today? And I said, I'm going to talk about the Civil War. And he goes, to the business owners? All right, that's fine. Let's see what you have to say. And suddenly everybody here thinks Rob Grede knows something about the Civil War. Not, again, I'm no expert, but it was simply an area of expertise that I had acquired by virtue of doing some research. Who will benefit? I think everybody seemed to have been entertained. I sold a whole slew of books. It was kind of fun. So the other thing was spread the word. And again, I was grateful that I had some folks to do that for me because I don't know how to do that very well. It's one of the things they always say a lawyer should never represent himself. Marketers are the worst marketers of themselves. I admit that I'm a terrible marketer of me. I'm great working with clients, but if I'm my own client, I'm really not very good at it. I admit it. So I don't follow my own advice. I should admit that. Cut that. We'll edit that out. I'll have to edit that out. Okay, so teach a class. It doesn't matter that it's absolutely focused on what you do for a living. As long as you're up in front of people, they will consider you an expert. Okay? The fact that you are brave enough to stand up in front of colleagues, peers, potential prospects, customers, whatever, and speak, at least lets them know that you have enough poise or enough self-confidence to be able to talk about that subject. Maybe you'd be good for them doing this other thing that you are actually doing for a living. So teaching a class can be a very good way to create awareness and credibility for who you are, what you do. All right. Building upon that awareness and credibility, I talked about writing. Whether it's a column, a blog, or opinion piece, again, who is my audience? What do I have to say that's unique, different than anything else? Or even it's the same as everybody else is saying, how can I say it in a different way? But the who, why, what, where, when up in the first paragraph is all good journalists do and something you learn in Journalism 101 and follow prep. We talked about earlier. What are we doing for time? I don't want to go over, and Maggie told me that I should press this thing to tell her how much time I've got left, and I forgot. So, 10 to 15 minutes. We want a lot of room for questions. Okay, so let's hurry along here. All right, how do we remember the brand called you? Create credibility through testimonials. What's the best form of advertising there is? Word of mouth. What's the second best form of advertising? Referrals or testimonials. Because if I can't get Maggie to tell Ron what a great book I've written or what a great product I have to sell, because Maggie doesn't know Ron, maybe I can get Maggie to tell me. That's a testimonial. And I will use her testimonial to tell Ron or to tell everybody. Testimonials are the second best form of advertising. And you will find, if you watch commercials, television commercials, or read ads in the newspaper, most of the best commercials either refer obliquely to a testimonial or actually contain specific testimonials. Even if they just have a spokesperson, I don't care if it's Michael Jordan, that's a form of, that's a celebrity endorsement, but that's a form of testimonial. If it's good enough for Mike, it's good enough for me. Okay? And then lastly, you need to tell everybody about your brand. Where you're speaking, you want to distribute hard copies of your the things that you've written, either PDF files in digital format, send it out through email, flag it on all the social media, and send copies. I love it, sending a, hey, don't know if a prospect is out there and I know that he has not had a chance to see this article I wrote for some trade journal, at some obscure trade journal, I might just make a copy of it, take a little post-it note and say, hey, thought you might find this of interest, and mail it to him, snail mail. It seems like real old school, but people open handwritten letters. They still, if you have an envelope with handwriting on the cover, your chances of opening it are about 10 times as they are without handwritten outside. Recent Direct Mail Association research. So make sure you distribute that any way you can. It's called building the wave. Once you have the articles published, once you have the speech lined up, or you are teaching a class, letting everybody know and following it with testimonials. If you all want to give me a great testimonial today on the WBO site, I will post them. Okay, I'll distribute them through social media. I will distribute them on my website. I want everybody to know how wonderful I am because other people have told me that. And you may not tell those other people, but if you were willing to say so about the WBO, as Keith said earlier, hey, if you've got great things to say, tell everybody. If you've got bad things to say, tell me. And let me see if I can fix them. Good advice. I learn a lot from this guy. All right. So that leaves us with a couple of minutes, just 5-7 minutes for questions. You are a brand, and as part of my reminder advertising, I offer 30-second marketing tips. Who's on my list? Anybody? A couple of you? All right. Anybody who wants to be on 30-second marketing tips once a week. There's no selling involved. I don't try and sell anything to anybody. I send out 30-second marketing tips. It's basically just little bits and pieces from my books and columns over the years that I distribute free to anybody. And that way, once a week, you get a missive from Robert Grede. It reminds you that, oh yeah, I remember seeing him speak sometime. Or I remember reading something he wrote such and such a time. I have a marketing problem. I'm going to contact him. I'm telling you, it works. I've had people contact. I have clients now who have been on my 30-second marketing tips list for years who are becoming clients now. There's an old adage, I believe, very strongly about networking. It's always best to start here and not here. Okay? Give them something. Don't go to a networking event saying, what can I get out of it? All right? With that thought, thank you very much. Let's open it for questions. If you have any ideas about it. Thank you.